you choose to not control the outcomes. If you haven't been tested, if your selflessness has not been tested, you cannot come here and start telling us you're selfless unless your limits have been pushed and you chose to be selfless regardless. Suffering is inevitable, right? But then it increases when we want life to be different from what it actually is. The thing with being a detached person is agreeing to the fact that you trust yourself enough. Hello guys, welcome back to Woman Enough podcast. This is episode 10. Thank you so much for being here all the way from episode 1 to episode 10. I am your host, Zarela. This is the podcast where we get to learn and become the best versions of ourselves. On today's episode, we're going to be discussing detachment or the law of detachment. What do we mean when we're saying we are getting detached or we are being, we are detaching? So detaching does not equate not caring. And I think that is where most of us go wrong, because we tend to think that because you have detached, you don't care. But I feel like it is more of you care too much that you choose to not control the outcomes. Rather, you just let things be. And I feel like the whole basis of the whole detaching thing is just being able to let go and let things be. Being able to, that means even relationships, like a job, anything that you're doing, you have to be detached from the outcome so that whatever it is that happens, you are kind of ready to accept whatever the outcome of a certain circumstances is, and you're able to alchemize whatever results it is that you get. The problem with being too detached to a result of a certain relationship or something or a project that you're doing, it's more like you're fixated on something and like you've already told your mind, this is what we expect and this is what is going to give us a dopamine spike. If anything other than that happens, or if anything other than what you expect comes through from that, whatever it is, you will not get no dopamine sparks because it's not a reward for you, And that is why being detached is way better, because one, whatever results come will always work on your dopamine, because everything to you is a reward. You don't have something that you had set your mind on, that this is what I want, this is what I'm not saying don't have specific goals. There's a difference. For example, if you start seeing someone right now, or you start dating somebody right now, most of us will put our heads and start creating a version of that person in our head, and we'll start thinking, yeah, maybe they do this, they do that, I should expect this and this and this from them. And then when we don't get those things from these people, we tend to think that maybe they are bad people, they are being evil. But most of the time, I feel like we also have misalignment of expectations, and being too attached to those expectations becomes very detrimental to you and your mental health, because nobody likes being disappointed. And the thing is, our brain collects evidence. So if you go around expecting to get good things, not even expecting, if you have been getting good things, and I always say there's no default of good and bad. There's nothing we can say that this is a good thing and this is a bad thing. But it all depends with your position, where you at right now, and what is that going to do for you? Is it harmful to you, or is it something you can turn around and make better? So there's no good or negative outcome. I think it's all about how those things make you feel, right? So if all the time something happens, you're made to feel terrible because you didn't get exactly what you wanted, your brain will collect that type of evidence. So that will be your cycle: getting what you don't want, feeling bad about it; getting what you don't want, feeling bad about it. But if you're so detached, no matter if you get what you don't want, actually there's nothing you don't want. You're okay with getting anything, because all you have to do is put your energy in the process, like in the doing and in the being. But whatever it is that comes out is mostly none of my business or any of your business. It's more like what you do with it after is what really matters, right? So if you're talking about, for example, relationships. So if you start like dating somebody and you guys, of course, have communication, like you talk and stuff, and you know the likes and the dislikes of this person, like you feel like you actually know them. I will like it is so surprising that you realize that you don't know somebody when they start acting differently to what your expectations are. When they start doing things that you didn't expect they would do. I'll say we are selfish people. Like like we always say, like, maybe I put others first, I do, but you can do that consciously when you haven't been pushed to your limits, because people don't even know how selfish they are until the limits have pushed you. Like that's why I always say people who say that suicide is selfish are people who have not been left with any other choice apart from wanting to leave this world. Because imagine to the where you've gotten to the point where your brain just doesn't want you to be here anymore, and it's yours, but it wants to get rid of you. It's just crazy. So labeling something like that as selfish, I feel like we all go wrong as a society at that point. But back to what I was saying, if you haven't been tested, if your selflessness has not been tested, you cannot come here and start telling us you're selfless unless your limits have been pushed and you chose to be selfless regardless. Then maybe we can say, yeah, you're actually selfless. But until it's either you or them, you can't be telling us like you are selfless. So people will do things that they don't think are going to hurt you. You know, people don't know what you like and what you don't like. Or maybe they do when you tell them, but people do not know your emotional capacity and they don't know what triggers you and what doesn't. So like you can somebody can do something and to them it's actually like nice. Maybe they don't think they're doing something wrong, but then you take it in a very wrong way and maybe it actually does hurt you. And that is why you stay detached. And that means that somebody's actions will not entirely impact your emotional stroke nervous system. Like that's what detachment does for you. It creates that space between other people's actions or results that are out of your control or life circumstances that are out of your control. It creates that gap between those and now you and your emotional self and your reactions and stuff. So I feel like detachment is one of the greatest solutions that you have to being in toxic relationships and tolerating weird cycles, because you value yourself too much for you to allow yourself to be in situations like those simply because there's something in your head that you think should be. Because I know that we've all been there, like we've all been there, we've all been with someone and you've created this kind of, idea of them in your head and you always justified whatever they did against that other than what they actually show you they are. I always say like people will tell you if they like you or not. And even if they not show you, they will not tell you, they will show you. And the being too detached makes you delusional in a bad way. It makes you try to chase things that are running away from you. So you're always in the midst of chasing things that are just not even meant for you, And these things, they're actively running away from you. Because some people will be mistreated by other people. They will be put in very bad circumstances. But at the end of the day, they will still choose those people over themselves. Because at that point, I feel like if somebody is always messing up with your nervous system, then those people are not good people for you, and they're not people that should be your friends or whatever it is that they are. Even friends, you're not supposed to be hanging out with people who make you feel bad about yourself, with people who make you feel like you're not enough, and people who make you feel like, they don't put you up all the time, and it's not even like people should worship you or they should always be there to give you compliments and they should always be nice to you. But there's a thin line between just letting people exist for who they are and creating like a lot of expectations in your head. And then when they're not met, you start feeling bad about it. You know, when they're not met, you start feeling less of a person because nobody doesn't like their expectations. Nobody likes their expectations not being met. So if something happens and you probably like expected results A and results B come in and you are so detached to results A, like, sorry, you're so attached to results A, like that is all you wanted. And then this is what, okay, now let's say, for example, I am a model, right? So if I wake up today and I apply for, let's say I apply for scouting to a certain agency, and I was expecting to like be scouted and be given runway shows and stuff like that. And then it happens that they don't. And instead of telling me, hey, you can come to the scouting and stuff, they just text me and they're like, we would like to give you like an opportunity to go to a certain place and do pageantry. And because I don't like pageantry, I would be like, oh my God, like I am so, like I would actually stop chasing that opportunity, even if maybe if I could have gone to that pageantry thingy, maybe it will just a way for me to go into my runway thing eventually, right? But if I am too detached to being a runway model, I will reject those opportunities because they're not what I want, right? But if I detach from the outcomes after everything that I do, I will take that opportunity regardless of where it leads because it will always lead to a good place. Suffering is inevitable, right? But then it increases when we want life to be different from what it actually is. The thing with being a detached person is agreeing to the fact that you trust yourself enough to not be willing to control the outcomes. You know, you trust you and the universe enough to give you whatever it is that you need in any form that it comes in. And we're going like that first, we're going to do like another example about being extremely attached to people and how detrimental it can be, right? So, for example, let's talk about relationships. So, imagine you're in a relationship with somebody, and this person, they are a quiet person. Okay, they're a quiet person who likes their own time, they like their own space, and they like to be quiet. In contrary, you are a hyper person. You're bubbly, you're talkative, you're happy. See, like that doesn't even matter. You know, it's like it's a difference between personalities. They're an introvert, you're an extrovert. But if you walk around with the expectations of that person being able to talk to you anytime you want them to, being able to, pick up your calls anytime you want them to, there are people who genuinely don't like calls. And maybe you like calls a lot. There's a disconnect. And if you're too attached to this person, there's either two things that will happen. One, you will shrink your own wants. You will start being like, maybe I'm being superficial with the calls. Maybe they don't even have to call me. But there's a reason as to why you love calls. There's something they do for you, right? So what will be the best thing to do in that situation is to go find somebody who actually likes calls. But in an attachment type of style, this person will instead either start having problems with their partner because they're not meeting their expectations, or two, they will shrink themselves so that they can accommodate their partner. Either way, both of those are wrong. Like, both of those are wrong moves because at the end of the day, they're going to continue causing the drift between you guys. It will keep causing misunderstanding between you guys. It will keep leading you to a place that you two don't even want to be. And the problem with attachment, it fights to survive. It really does. That is why you see people like maybe they've said that they've broken up with somebody and they're not going to ever talk to them again, and they're not going to ever see them again. But then after 2 days, 3 days, they just can't handle being alone and they start hitting them up again, and the cycle repeats itself over and over and over again. And the thing is, you can be in love with somebody, but I feel like we're usually more in love with how people make us feel more than they themselves, like how they are. I think we tend to deny it, but 99% of the time, you want somebody because there's something they can do for you. One, even if you ask somebody like, why do you love your wife? Ama, why do you love your husband? They're going to tell you, maybe he's always there for me. He listens to me. He allows me to be myself. He supports me and my dreams all the time. She's there for me. She talks to me. She allows me to be myself, all those things. So it's like me, it's me. How does she make me feel? How does her presence interact with mine? So apart from that, there's also what you do with the person, like the routine. For example, if you're used to coming back from work, you go back home, you find your husband or your wife and they've made dinner and stuff like that. It's a routine. It's something you're used to. And we don't like changing routines. Even if we do, it's not something you can do just once. So coupled with how this person makes you feel and the routine that you guys have had, it will be hard to detach. I understand. It's not like you can just wake up today and say, I'm detached from you. But it's a necessary process. And it starts with introspection. It starts with knowing exactly who you are and why you are here. Like, why am I with this person? What is it exactly that my mind wants from this person? And is it something they are willing to meet? Like, is it something they willingly do? Is it something they would willingly want to give to me? It's not something that you have to fish from somebody. It's not something that you have to force them to do. It's just something that they are willing to do, or it's something that they are already doing, so they enjoy doing it. And you have to, I always say that in every episode, but you have to have hobbies. You have to have things that you're doing. Even if the hobby is, it doesn't like make sense, or it's not something that can be translated into money. Hobbies can be just for fun. Like, just have a hobby, have a routine by yourself so that you have something to fall back into. You have yourself to fall back into anytime your expectations are not met by the world. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. See you next time with a guest. See you next time. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. See you next time. Bye.